Hi guys, welcome back to Math with Ms. Rodriguez. Today we're going to continue working with circles. So let's have fun. So we're going to start by reviewing what we learned last week. So last week we learned about different parts of a circle. So we learned about the radius, which is a line segment that goes from the center to any point of the circle. We also have the diameter. The diameter is a line segment that goes across the circle through the center. And we learned about the circumference. So the circumference is the distance around the circle. We also learned about pi, so we know that pi represents a special number, and we know that we can find pi by dividing the circumference of a circle over the diameter. And we also know that pi is approximately 3.14. We also learned about finding the circumference of a circle given the radius or the diameter. And we use two formulas to find the circumference of a circle. So we have circumference is equal to pi times diameter, c equals to pi times d, or circumference is equal to pi times 2 times r. So c is equal to 2 times pi times r. Also, remember that the diameter is double the radius. So d is equal to 2r. And remember that the radius is half of the diameter. So 1/2 d. Okay, so now that we review, let's take a look at our new topic. So today we're going to be learning about the area of a circle. Well, how can we find the area of a circle? So let's take a look at the next video. So this video will explain to you how the formula was developed to find the area of a circle. So please pay attention to the video and write down any questions or any comments that you might have.
Pi r squared gives you the area of a circle. But where does pi r squared come from? First, we'll draw a circle and fill in its area. Next, we will divide it into large equal parts and arrange them in a rectangular formation. As you can see, it barely resembles a rectangle. So next, we will divide the circle into small equal pieces, and we will arrange them in the same manner. You can see that it appears more like a rectangle. So if we divide the circle into even more smaller pieces, you can see that every time the shape becomes more like a rectangle. So how small must we divide a circle before we can get a perfect rectangle? Well, we can keep on dividing the circle into small, smaller, or the smallest pieces you can make. But the answer is to divide the circle infinitely many times until we cannot distinguish the lines, and eventually the circle can now become a perfect rectangle. So, the area of the circle is equal to the area of the rectangle, which is equal to base times height. The height of the rectangle, as you can see, is the same as the radius. So height is equal to radius. To find the base, we need to look at the circumference of the circle. And when we compare the base and the circumference, we can see that the base is equal to 1/2 the circumference. Remember that the circumference is equal to 2 pi r. When we combine it with 1/2, the 2's cancel out, and base is equal to pi r. So now base times height becomes pi r times r. Combine the r's together and we have pi r squared, which is equal to the area of the rectangle, which is equal to the area of the circle. So pi r squared can be used to calculate the area of any size circle that exists.
Okay, so now that we know the formula to find the area of a circle, which is A is equal to pi times r squared, And remember that when they're talking about the r square, it just means r times r. Okay? So r times r. So now let's do some examples. So our first example is here. So it says find the area of the following circle. And also says remember that pi is approximately 3.14. So just a little hint. And we're given a circle with a radius of 7 centimeters. So how can we start? So our first step will always be write down our formula. So first step is the formula. So then we have A is equal to pi times r squared. Okay, so that's our first step, our formula. Our second step is to find the values that we know and substitute. So second step, so find given values and substitute. So what values are given to us? So we have that pi is approximately 3.14, and we have that r is 7 centimeters. And now it says substitute. So we're going to substitute these values into our formula. So now our formula is going to look like this. Area is equal to 3.14, because that's the value of pi, times 7 centimeters square. So remember, when we have centimeters square or 7 centimeters square, it just means 7 times 7. So then here we have A is equal to 3.14 times 49 centimeters square, right? Because 7 times 7 is 49. So our last step will be just to solve. So we're going to solve by multiplying 3.14 times 49. So we do 3.14 times 49, we're going to get 153.86 centimeters square. Don't forget your centimeters square. So the area of the circle is 153.86 centimeters. Okay, so let's take a look at another example. So example 2, find the area of the following circle. So we have a circle, but here we have the diameter, we don't have the radius. So how can we solve this one? Okay, so like always, our first step is always going to be write down our formula. So formula. So we have A is equal to pi r squared, right? Our second step is find given values. So find given values and substitute, right? So the first value that we know is that pi is approximately 3.14. And here they're giving us the diameter. The diameter is 30 centimeters. If you remember at the beginning of this video, I gave you a tip. So the tip was to remember, or a hint was to remember that d is equal to 2 times radius, and that the radius is half of the diameter. So how can we find the radius? Because the formula requires a radius. So in this case, we know that r is equal to half of the diameter, and we know that our diameter is 30 centimeters, right? So then we can use this formula here to find r. So r is equal to half of 30, right? Let me write it down. So we know that r is equal to half of 30. So what's half of 30? So we know that half of 30 is 15 centimeters. So it'll be 30 over 2. So r is equal to 15 centimeters. So now we know our radius. So let's substitute the radius and the pi into our formula. So now it's going to be a is equal to 3.14 times 15 centimeters square. And remember that 15 centimeters square can be also written as 15 times 15. So our last step will be to solve. So third step is solve. So now we're going to multiply. A is equal to 3.14 times, I believe it's 225 centimeters square. So then A is equal to 706.25. Okay, so let's take a look into our last example. If the area of the drumhead on the drum shown below is 1,256 inches square, what is the radius of the drumhead? So this example is a little bit different from the last two, because here we're given the area, and now we have to find the radius. So how can we start? So we're going to follow the same steps that we used for the last two examples. So as we remember, our first step is to write down our formula. Formula. And we know that area is equal to pi r squared. Our second step is to find the given values. Given values and substitute. So we know that our area A is equal to 1,256 inches square, and we know that pi is approximately 3.42. So now let's substitute those values into our formula. So now we have A, which is 1,256 inches square, is equal to 3.14, which is pi, times r squared, because that's what we're trying to figure it out. So how can we get rid of the 3.14 and leave the r by itself? So let's take a look. So we know here we're multiplying 3.14 times r squared. So what's the opposite of multiplication? So we know that the opposite of multiplication is division. So then we're going to divide by 3.14. So this cancels out, and we're only left with r squared is equal to So if we divide 3.14 into 1,256 inches square, we're going to get 400 inches square. So now to find the value of r, not r square, only r, we're going to do the square root of both sides. So r is equal to, so one number when we multiply by itself will give us 400. So 20 times 20, that's 0, that's 0, 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 2 is 4. So we know that when we multiply 20 by itself, we get 400. So our radius is 20 inches. Okay, let's do a recap of what we learned today. So today we talk about the area of a circle. So area of a circle is the number of unit squares that can fit into or inside the circle. And the formula is A is equal to pi r squared. R squared just means r times r. And we also went through some examples in finding the area of the circle. I also want to give you some fun ways to remember the formulas. And thank you for watching, and see you on the next video.